rise in body and spirit as you're able. For hymn number 120, 358 in the hymnal.
A couple of quick announcements. I think you're familiar with the main ones. We have child care and family ministry gatherings for children and youth of all ages. Youth in 6th through 12th grades gather at 11 in the youth room across the courtyard, while our younger children join us here for the beginning of the service. Any visiting youth are invited to join them now, and of course, children of all ages are always welcome to remain in the sanctuary. The awesome little choir begins rehearsals this Wednesday, and I think that's going to get either moved or rescheduled, so we'll get back to you on, James will get back to you on that. What?
We do meet this Wednesday. Yes.
We do meet on Wednesday.
On the 6th.
Yeah, you have a problem with the location. I'll talk about that in a minute. If you're a first-time visitor to the Church of the River, we're delighted to have you. If you're interested in finding out more about our church, pick up a welcome visitor bag from the credenza or from Mike Schooler. He's waving one in the air now, one of those stylish bags. And we'll talk about other details in a moment. I also want to let you all know, we have, for those of you that are familiar with our plumbing nightmares over the last couple of months since our renovation, we ordered new sewage pumps Friday night. They're supposed to arrive this week. And if it goes as planned, a week from tomorrow or a week from Monday, they're going to come in and rip everything out of that mechanical room down there. They say they can do it all in 5 days, and we'll be back in business for the following Sunday morning service. I'll believe it when I see it, but we'll stay flexible, okay? And yeah, I misspoke when I was talking about choir practice. I was talking about next week. They're meeting this Wednesday here. And I think I'm gonna, with that, I'm gonna turn it over to Reverend Lynn Hopkins. Reverend Hopkins is a lifelong activist for justice and equity, as well as a lifelong student of religion and theology. Reverend Lynn and Reverend Lynn's spouse, Carolyn Bond, lived for 20 years in Atlanta, where Reverend Lynn graduated from the Candler School of Theology at Emory University. They lived briefly in Denver during an internship and then settled in Montgomery, Alabama, where Reverend Lynn has served the UU Fellowship of Montgomery until 2025. In all those places, Reverend Lynn was engaged in public advocacy and organizing in areas of sexuality and gender equity, racial equity, economic justice, criminal justice, disability access, and more. Reverend Lynn currently serves on the advisory committee of Project Hope to abolish the death penalty, the nation's only death penalty organization created and led by incarcerated persons, and is also a member of the Transgender Religious Professional UUs Together. Reverend Lynn and Carolyn are in their 37th year of marriage, and they are the loving parents of 2 rescue guinea pigs, Ella Baker and Barbara Jordan. And I am told that Ella Baker and Barbara Jordan are very unhappy about this move. They did not like spending the whole day in the car driving up here, but she said they're getting settled and now they're getting used to the place. With that, I will turn it over to Reverend Lynn and let her take over. Thanks.
Good morning. It's so good to be here with you. And although it is a little presumptuous of me in my first Sunday here, I want to say this. And if you remember only one thing I ever say to you, let it be this: you, all of who you are is welcome in this place. Your emotional self, your intellectual self, your political self, your social self, your spiritual self, all of you. Your racial, your ethnic, your cultural, your ancestral. Leave nothing at the door. Every bit of who you are is welcome in this place. I'd like to invite you into an hour of worship this morning with words from one of the great poets of our generation, Andrea Gibson, who recently lost a battle with ovarian cancer. Their words have sustained, inspired, and guided me for many, many years. And I'm just going to offer you the first stanza of one of their great works entitled "Say Yes." When 2 violins are placed in a room, if a chord on one violin is struck, the other violin will sound the note. If this is your definition of hope, this is for you, the ones who know how powerful you are, who know we can sound the music in the people around us simply by playing our own strings. For the ones who sing life into broken wings, open their chests and offer their breath as wind on a still day when nothing seems to be moving. Spare those intent on proving God is dead. For you, when your fingers are red from clutching your heart so it will beat faster, for the time you mastered the art of giving yourself for the sake of someone else, for the ones who have felt what it is to crush the lies and lift truth so high the steeples bow to the sky, this is for you. Please join me in speaking aloud our unison chalice lighting words printed in your order of service. We light this chalice for the challenge of freedom, the goal of equality, and the warmth of community. May all who gather here offer and find the blessings of acceptance, loving kindness, and a grateful heart. Please, oh dear. Please rise in body or spirit, if you will, and join me in singing number 124, Be That God. In the midst of all the madness that has been my life during the move in the last few weeks, evidently Jessica has taken a trip and while traveling, fallen and shattered her elbow. And so, I would like to invite the kids to come, and all of those who like to be with the kids. We're going to do a time for all ages. Now, what we're going to be talking about today, later in the service, is the way that we think differently, speak differently, imagine differently about religious ideas. God, the Bible, sin, Jesus, all those words that we don't use very often around here. And the church that I grew up in, everyone who came together believed essentially the same thing. In fact, we all sat and read a creed, a statement that began, "We believe." And we all were expected to believe that. I grew up in a Methodist church. Gordon, I know, comes from an Episcopal background. And most churches are that way. We believe the same stuff. This is going to be a little bit awkward because I wasn't planning on having to hold something. But we're going to do this together. There is a mic stand behind me. Oh, no, that's perfect. That's just like that. There we go. How about that? Now, a church, a congregation, is essentially a circle of folks. They all go the same direction together, stay in the same place, believe the same stuff. And what happens in a traditional church, if you and I are members of a church and we decide we really don't believe that stuff, and then others maybe also start to think they don't believe that stuff, the circle begins to break. The congregation splits. Now, the math majors among you know where I'm going with this. So in a traditional church, a church that has what's called an orthodoxy, which is just Greek for right belief, right teaching, when it splits, some of them just got to go away, and they end up smaller. But we, Unitarian Universalists, do things a little differently. We do church with a twist. So when we come together, we're not all going to believe the same stuff. We're not all going to think the same way. We might not even all speak the same language. We may look different, sound different. But when we find those differences between us, and when we step into those differences between us, we can celebrate those differences between us. So that when we notice the differences, the ways in which we are not alike, we don't become smaller. Instead, we become larger. That was my favorite thing from math class. The lesson for us today in the Mobius strip is that if we can learn to do religion with a twist, we can celebrate the differences among us and become bigger, stronger, wider, more powerful, and more alive. And with that, you are blessed, you are powerful, you are sacred. Go in peace. Our first reading today is from Ayasutriasa, who prefaces this work with these words. This poem was an email response from my therapist when she closed her office because of coronavirus. The author has given permission to publish it but wishes to remain anonymous. Hello, sweet one. I see how much you care about the world, about your communities, about all of us surviving plagues and capitalism and a world on fire. That clench in your throat, the knot in your gut, the tightness in your breath, this is how our bodies try to hold the world's anguish. We write the wrongness into our bodies, a beautiful and devastating lament. Just because your body can hold all the tragedy, the panic, the tension that it is holding right now, that doesn't mean you must go on holding it all forever. The loving grandmother in you knows this. Set it down. Set it down somewhere nearby so you can pick it up again when you need to, but just for a moment, relinquish your illusions of control. Allow yourself to see the many-headed truth monster. It might not all be okay. It might end in flames and death and horror no matter what you do. Take a moment to acknowledge how awful and sad that truth is and how not even the worst possible scenario would take away from your inherent worthiness. Simultaneously, it is true that human beings have always fought for one another, cared for one another fiercely, and carried the world's anguish in our bodies. There are small truths, like that we cannot control the future no matter how much we wish we could. Don't worry when the truths contradict one another. Real truths often do. No matter what, whether it turns out okay in the end or not, you carry the divine within you. You are enough. Not because of the things you do, but because of who you are, fundamentally, intrinsically, always and without exception. Take a breath or two to allow yourself to know this. And when we pick up the anxiety again, let us aim for flexibility. Movement space for breath to get in and out of your rib cage, gentleness for the things we can't do, and integrity, giving us the strength and resolve to turn our sometimes excruciating caring into solidarity, mutual aid, and direct action. We are each one person breathing this one breath with common divinity. We can do this together. Our second reading comes from the poet Lynn Hopkins. The worst thing we ever did was put God in the sky, out of reach, pulling the divinity from the leaf, sifting out the holy from our bones, insisting God isn't, bursting dazzlement through everything we've made a hard commitment to see as ordinary. Stripping the sacred from everywhere to put in a cloud man elsewhere, prying closeness from your heart. The worst thing we ever did was take the dance and the song out of prayer, made it sit up straight and cross its legs, removed it of rejoicing, wiped clean its hip sway, its questions, its ecstatic yowl, its tears. The worst thing we ever did is pretend God isn't the easiest thing in this universe available to every soul in every breath. I ask you to join me now in an attitude of prayer, whatever that means to you. As we gather in this time, a diversity of persons, of lived experiences, we bring our sorrows and our joys, our anxieties and laments, as well as our celebrations and anticipations. We bring all of this together as we open ourselves to the presence of something beyond our comprehension. We are heavily burdened with the news of the world. We know that many suffer terribly. And we know that our own government and its powers are in many ways complicit in this suffering. And we feel the shame and the rage of that. And still we are grateful for the opportunity to wake up another morning, to face another day, and to acknowledge the power, the dignity, and the worthiness of one another. For we know that whenever two or more come together, there is something else in that space. In authenticity and humility, we have the capacity to bring about a better world. And so in this hour, we seek the encouragement, the fortitude, the patience, and the willingness and the willingness to be willing. We need so much in order to move from one day to the next and 1 hour to the next. Sometimes we need so much, and yet we know and claim that all that we need is here. That we are here for each other. And that together we will bring about the world that we imagine and know can truly be. May it be so. Amen.
Before we take up the offering, I have to make a small confession. Every time we take up the offering, I think about this because some time ago in a church not too very far away, they always took up the offering after the sermon. And I'm old enough to be able to say back in the day, okay? And back in the day, they did it after the sermon because the thinking was, if the minister got into some really powerful witnessing up here, that would inspire people to dig a little deeper and give a little more. And so we try to get around that by taking up the offering first, before the sermon, so it takes all the pressure off of the minister. So we take up an offering now, which allows the church to exercise our ministries and do good work in the community and provide for others in need. Your gifts will allow us to practice this generosity of spirit, and your gifts support the church. You can donate by scanning the QR code on the sign at the back of the church, or in your order of service by texting 901-350-2686. You can do it online at churchoftheriver.org, or if you're my age and you just want to go old school, you can actually put cash in the blue bags that are coming around now, okay? And with that, the gifts of the congregation will graciously be given and gratefully received.
you believe in God? I hate that question. Not because I'm embarrassed, not because I don't like talking about it. I love talking about it. My seminary years were the best years of my life because I got to talk about it every day. Not because I'm afraid that we'll disagree. In fact, I hope we do. Because then I have the opportunity to take in new perspectives, new ways of seeing and understanding to enlarge my view of the world. It's really just that I feel strongly about truthfulness. And when you ask me a yes or no question, I want to tell you yes or no and have it be the truth. And I could say yes or no, and they would both be true, but not really. Neither answer comes close to incorporating my understanding of the transcendent. There is that awful problem with the word, God. For me, as for many of us, it conjures a mental image of a person off somewhere, looking on, watching, caring, assessing, intervening maybe when appropriate, but somewhere else, outside of our lived experience. No, I don't believe in that. That doesn't make sense to me, and it doesn't fit my lived experience. I prefer to avoid the word altogether because it carries too much weight, too much of that connotation of a being, an entity, a personality. Still, I believe in something bigger than all of us, something that runs through all of life in its most spectacular joys and its most awful anguish. Something that makes everything fit together and makes it all worthwhile. Something more than life, more than serenity or ecstasy, more even than that awesome, transforming, world-changing power of love. Something, just not something with a personality or a mind or a plan. Now, in times of crisis, of inexplicable loss, of deep suffering, it helps to know deep down that I stand on something eternal, incontrovertible, universal. I might express my connection, my yearning, my reaching out in ritual or song or prayer. I might even use the word God, and it might call to mind images of a supernatural presence, because sometimes that's what works. I want you to consider this illustration. When I was a kid in science class, I learned that there's no such thing really as cold. There's heat, and there's absence of heat. Cold was just less heat. It wasn't a separate thing. That was confusing to me at first, because that biting winter wind is not just a breeze with less heat in it, it's cold. And when people die of exposure, they die from cold, not just not enough heat, even though that's what hypothermia literally means. Cold is not a scientific reality, but it is a reality in my experience. I know what it is, I know what it means, and I know what it feels like. I won't be offended by someone who talks about bitter cold of winter just because I know that scientifically that's not a thing. I won't even be offended if that person doesn't understand or accept that there's no such thing as cold. That would be silly. Cold is a conceptual model that works for us even though it is not scientifically a thing. And sometimes, so is the personal God. Especially a God who knows what it is to walk on earth and have bad days and disappointment and shame and suffering, to be angry and powerless. I get what the Christians with orthodoxy embrace in that image, even though that's not the way I understand it. Allowing my semantic distinctions to obstruct communications with the Christians in my family of origin and my friend circle and the society around me would be silly. It only serves to rob us of the opportunity to communicate and to be in community and connection with one another. So, as uncomfortable as I am with it, the word God isn't really the problem. Actually, it's more about this believe business. Do you believe? You see, we're talking about the transcendent mystery. Something beyond the comprehension of our minds. Reason, the capacity to figure things out and the adherence to logic may be the most valuable part of the Unitarian Universalist tradition. But the fact that we do not accept the notion that one person can have access to all the truth, that one text can tell us everything that we need to know, that the divine does not need to be revealed in supernatural events. As important as that is to our tradition, I think we need to recognize that the greatest strength can often be also the greatest weakness. I think that's true of reason, of making sense to our logical brains when it comes to religious experience. The Transcendentalist movement grew out of the reaction of Henry David Thoreau and Ralph Waldo Emerson and Theodore Parker and others to the oppressive effect that cold reason can have on our religious discourse. The transcendent, by definition, goes beyond reason and pure logical definition. It doesn't make sense But as we say in the original language of our Unitarian Universalist sources, the direct experience of that transcendent mystery and wonder affirmed in all cultures. We can't deny that, but it doesn't make sense either. There's a paradox here, and it's one that no amount of reason is going to get us out of. Systematic theologians have struggled for centuries to construct a logical model of deity. But coming at it from all directions they could think of has yielded no solution. Surely, if there was an argument against the reality of the transcendent experience, it would have prevailed by now. There would be no religious persons among scientists and engineers. The arguments against deity are no more compelling than the arguments for. People have been talking about belief in deity for a long time in our history. For me, though, I don't think believe applies in this case, not to what I have experienced of divinity. In fact, I think the idea of God, of a transcendent quality of good, of compassion, of mercy and grace, of human community, it defies belief. It is, well, absurd. And I don't mean by that that it's not true. It just doesn't make enough sense to be true or false. How do you find words to express that? I was relieved to find that I was not the first to come up short. St. Augustine, who laid the foundation of Western Christian theology, said, "We're talking about God. What wonder is it that you do not understand? If you do understand, it's not God." There's an old story told of St. Francis that he was walking in the barren winter and cried out to a bare tree, "Speak to me of God," and the tree burst into flower. The first line of the Tao Te Ching: "The way that can be known is not the eternal way." Because I didn't come upon this by reading what other theologians thought about it. I came upon it, well, by accident. Or maybe not. It's the story of my religious conversion. Here's how it went. September 18th, 1985. I sat silently on the floor of a tiny two-room trailer in a rundown trailer park on a U.S. highway in Northern Virginia. It was a pretty typical U.S. highway, not unlike Lamar or Poplar. I was done. I was out of hope. I'd had enough of the struggle, enduring physical and emotional and mental pain for which no doctor seemed to have an answer after years of searching. I was exhausted, empty, bankrupt in every sense of the word. It was time, I thought, for my life to be over. Nothing worthwhile could come of it, and I had seen more than enough. Suddenly, without provocation or invitation, without a sound. A sensation entered my being. It was a thought and a feeling and an idea and a vision. It was all of those things, and yet none exactly. It was an experience unlike any I had ever known. For lack of a better word, I call it hope. For no apparent reason, I knew faith. That is, I believed more deeply than can be called belief that the testimony that I had heard from people who told me they had emerged from a state like mine was true. Their lives were nothing like mine. I had thought previously, and it was obvious. But now I knew that what they had said was true. I could see their faces here, their voices, not like hallucinations, but something else I can't tell you exactly what. It was a transcendent experience. It was, I say, a resurrection of my spirit. Now, I say that keeping in mind I don't believe in resurrection or spirit. But there are things that I can't believe in because they don't make sense, and still I know they are true because I have lived them. This thing that happened to me, or it's happening, or the part of me that it happened to, or that it could happen at all, maybe that's God. Do I believe in God? Of course not. It doesn't make sense. Oh, but that doesn't stop it from being real, from changing lives, from guiding our feet and inspiring our minds and comforting our souls. I did not emerge from that moment all healed and better and happy in life. It was 2 years before I could even hold a job. I was still quite clear that this God business was a hoax. I found my way into a spiritual community that gave me some really good theological counsel. The only thing you need to know about God is you ain't it. I don't get to decide what is and what is not. I can only discern and work daily to know for myself what works, what fits, what nurtures and refreshes and strengthens life. For me, that includes an understanding of deity that is very different from the one I was given as a child. For me, just for me, this God thing is the wholeness, the entirety of what is, all of history and time and life and matter, everything. Each of us, in all that we are and all that we do, participates in the life of God. God isn't someone who loves me and cares that I hurt. God is something that I breathe and eat and runs through my veins and hurts when I hurt, because I am part of it. God torn by violence, dying from disease, poisoned by pollution, created in childbirth, multiplied in love, expressed in compassion, embodied in community. If we are a true community of faith, then we are collectively a being of Godness. If your family of origin is a place of trust and safety and forgiveness, it is a being of Godness. If your family of choice is a haven for growth and creativity and healing and nurture, then it is a being of Godness. When you stop and help a stranger, or when we reconcile with an enemy, or when we stand boldly in the face of injustice, there it is, God. That's what I believe because it fits my life experience. Now, it still doesn't make sense. Not in the logical, syllogistic, binary, yes and no framework. I can't prove it, and I don't have to. I can't persuade you, and I wouldn't even know where to start if I wanted to try, and that's okay. It's true, I have lived it, and my Unitarian Universalist training tells me that's good enough. But even if it weren't, it's still true. I love the image used by the Quakers. They speak of the presence of the divine in all of us as an inner light, a spark that we carry. It's an image, a model, because the only way we'll ever be able to speak of our experiences of deity is through crude models. And I could spend the next hour telling you about some of the models that I find useful. And it's something that I think we as UUs might do more often. That is, talk about God by whatever name makes sense to us in the moment. So, do I believe in God? Yes, of course. No, certainly not. I believe in nonsense. Thanks be to God. I invite you to rise in body and spirit as you are willing and able, and join in singing number 100, I've Got Peace Like a River.
Peace
Please come to the Mississippi River Room to join us for lunch in celebration of this new beginning of the chapter of the Church of the River. Please sign up for the supper club. Rod is eager to put your name down and can give you lots more information. And for now, only for now, our service has ended. May our service begin.